maybe my puppy understands the idea of, hell, he's not going to steal it from me. I should bring it back to him. He'll throw it again. All right, welcome back. Another episode. This episode is partially to, I guess, catch up, play a little catch up. I'm behind on messaging, and I thought about it and I realized I actually think that a lot of these could be really good podcast answers or questions. And we've done that in the past. We've done a lot of questions, made a podcast episode out of it. I think it's valuable because if one person has a question, other people do as well. And before we do, I want to thank you guys again for the support and it's hard for us to describe how much we appreciate you guys listening and sharing and doing those things because it really is the motivator for me. So here is the question. Jeremy, I've been watching your videos on hold conditioning. I have a pup that will be 4 months old tomorrow. And when he's retrieving, sometimes he will go down and just chew on the bumper. Other times he'll come back and go straight to his place, or he'll drop the bumper like 3 feet away from me. I was just wondering if now would be a good time to start hold conditioning and if that would help with the problems. Hope to hear back from you. So Easton, you're going to get a message back from me. So this is a good one. It's too early to start hold conditioning formal. It's 100% time to start hold conditioning informal. So that is what I would talk about when it comes to shaping every retrieve. Every retrieve is an opportunity to take a step closer to a good delivery. Now, the idea of eventually, sometimes he'll go and chew on the bumper. Other times he'll come back straight to his place, or he drops it like 3 feet away from me. My question is at 4 months old, how many retrieves are you making? Make sure he's not teething, first of all. If he's teething, stop retrieving. How many retrieves are you making? Because if a dog goes out to it and quits, I think that is really an indicator of you've gone too far. Like, I think retrieving with retrievers, and notice I say retrievers because it's their last name. Like, they've been bred to do it. This is not something that we trained. I don't train dogs to retrieve. I buy dogs that are retrievers and just bring it out of them. They've got it. The problem is at 4 months old, they have the attention span of a gnat. And so things get boring quickly. They would rather do something different. There's one way to really wreck a good little puppy, and that's to over-retrieve them. I always call them meaningless retrieves because even the dogs that do them great, some dogs just retrieve. And I look at that and people brag about that and they tout the idea of that. And I look at it and I go, you are completely getting nothing out of those retrieves except a dog that's so spun up about retrieving that's going to make your job really hard to settle him back in and make him steady. So I don't like over-retrieving a dog that wants to retrieve till the sun goes down. The dog that goes out and makes 2-3 retrieves and then the fourth one decides to blink at it and walk on to something else, or to lay down and chew on it, or to pick it up and turn it into a game of chase, he's telling me something. He's giving me body language. He's telling me, you went way too far, old man, and now you're going to pay the price. Because I'm not doing this anymore. It's not fun. I'm going to change the game. And so that's an attention span thing. It's a maturity thing. So I do think that what you got to do is look at the question of how many retrieves are you making? And so I would say 2, maybe 3 retrieves. And this is a good example of Chief, a dog that was one of the puppies out of a litter that we bred this last spring. My son owns him. His name is Chief. He's been on our social media a little bit. Did some seminars with him that you'll see being posted here soon. He is an extremely natural little retriever. Comes from very good breeding. But I told Mason, my son, I said, at first he wouldn't pick anything up. And so I said, well, just wait. No worries. And then he started picking stuff up and wanted to run away with it. And so then we said, well, we can't give him so much freedom. So then we made retrieves with them. We simplified it. We put him in a hallway, and we made 2 or 3 retrieves. I did when he was here over the summer. I made 2 or 3 retrieves with him once a week. That was it. And recorded it and showed it to my son, and he said, that's great. I said, yeah, now don't go to school and retrieve with them like this every day because it's not going to help you. Get that 2 or 3 retrieves and then be done. Then maybe 2 or 3 retrieves twice a week, maybe. But the idea is the retrieve is there and you're shaping it. But now what you got to do is start to figure out when the dog comes back, I have them understand that it's not just snag it away. So you're at the point right now where you're in a great position with 4 months old. No, you're not time to do hold conditioning. It's too early to do it formally. But informally, every retrieve you should. And so you share the dummy with the dog. You get down on the ground, you let the dog bring it back to you. You share it with him, you take it from him, you give it back. You take it from him, you give it back. You don't let him run away with it. So you control it to that degree. But you start getting the dog to understand that it's really a good thing to bring back to him. And good things happen from that. And you do that once or twice a week, maybe, depending on the dog, and then you're done. And you leave the dog hungry for the next one. And you never push them to the point where they quit. So the answer to that is figure out that sweet spot and then start working on it. And then from there you can build. And so eventually by the time you get to 8, 9, 10, 12 months and you actually maybe have an issue with delivery that you got to address using hold conditioning, it's not like we're trying to 180 a dog. We're not trying to change them 100%. We're trying to figure out how to just polish and shape it exactly how we want it. So control the environment and set yourself up for success with that. So great question. Here's another one. We're getting close to the Instagram ones. Hello, I love listening to the podcast and seeing many different topics discussed. It's really helped me with our 6-month-old retriever. I currently have our girl, Franny, able to complete sit, lay down, place, and stay, and I'm really focusing on heel and recall. She's doing well, and I'm keeping sessions short, although when I just want to let her out to run and burn off some energy, I'm afraid this might be taken away from our training. How do I get her the exercise she needs, but still make short training sessions important? It's a great question, and we've actually, I think we've probably answered it already, but I'm going to do it in a short version here. So the answer to that is, so I love what you're doing. You're at 6 months old. You're doing exactly what I would be doing. Heel, sit, stay, come when I call you. Heel is important, and at 6 months, the dog's big enough, mature enough to start doing it. So I'd focus a lot on that heel. And to be honest with you, heel work is a lot of thought. It takes the dog a lot of thinking, so get good at it. And then you can turn and you can make turns and improve on heel work, and you can cover 50 yards. You don't have to go for long walks. You can cover 50 yards under control, and the dog will have to think as much as it does physically exercise, and it will tire out the dog equally. Trust me, I've seen dogs whipped after 10 minutes of heel work. They come in and they lay down and they just fall asleep because I've challenged them. I've let them physically let a little energy off. They've had to walk, but they had to do it under control. It's like walking and chewing gum at the same time. It's a lot harder than just walking. Like, I think you have to be careful of the idea of free run and exercise for dogs is good at times, but what you're really doing is conditioning a good athlete, which all it's going to do is require more longer distance running to tire out the same dog. And so you're really building up the endurance and kind of working counterproductively when it comes to that. So balance the free play. So yeah, you can do free play. You can do free running. Just if all of a sudden the dog decides I'm in my own world and you're no longer a part of it and I'm not going to listen, it's too much freedom. So I 6 months old, dog will probably run off now, but prior to 6 months old, for those that are listening, I like to just walk around the house, make laps, let the dog follow me. And in those sessions, you can work on recall because you can carry your whistle in your mouth and you can beep, 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 and have the puppy run to you and praise them. And then when they drift off, turn and go the other way and beep, 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 and have them come run to you. And then you continue to do that, and the dog gets its exercise, but the exercise comes from what? Running back to you excited to get petted because he heard the beep, 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 beep. So you're giving, I don't like the idea of freedom, of 100% freedom. Run wild, do what you want. Because I think that, yeah, you're accomplishing something. You're burning some calories, but you're creating the better athlete by conditioning them to need more of that. And you're also giving them this freedom mentally and physically that they're on their own. And so it's hard to get them to dial back into the idea of do that with me. So I think it might start out with fenced in area that you can let the dog do its freedom, but he only can go so far because if you really got to get him, you can get him back. And so I don't use a check cord hardly ever. I know a lot of guys are big on check cords. I hardly ever use them because I think it becomes a crutch. I think it becomes something that people believe they need all the time, and then they never let the dog off, and then they're afraid to let the dog off. And then when they do let the dog off, the dog knows that because they're nervous about it, and they can sense that and feel it, and all of a sudden they go, freedom. And now you just start this really, really big snowball going the other direction. So at 6 months old, I'd capitalize on the youth part of it, but I'd really start hustling on shaping the idea of get that control and maintain that control. And I really think you'll be surprised if you get good at heel work, which is the one thing that you're struggling with. It says place and state. I'm really focusing on healing and recall. Those are two of the, so those, as the priority list goes, I think those are more important than sit, lay down, place, and stay. So you need to not focus on the things you're doing well at 6 months old. You need to focus on those things that aren't going so well. Spend the effort fixing that, which will give you dual results. It'll tire the dog out mentally and physically, which is achieving the goal that you're after. And you'll start to work on what's not going, what you need to be working on. Like that has to be getting good by that age. So great question, Ryan. I'll send you a message. All right, guys, I'm going to see if I can get through. I got 2 more here. Hi, I have a 9-month-old pup. She's gun shy, wondering what's the best way to break her from being gun shy. Really a big challenge, Wesley, at 9 months old. So my question goes back to, with this, how come she's gun shy? What happened? You have to figure out what happened, because the scenario, that something happened. It wasn't born that way. Somehow there were some loud noises in introduction. Can you do it? Can you reverse this? I think you can at 9 months old, depending on how bad it is. If it's really, really bad, it could be really, really difficult to overcome. If it's just a little spooky, which some people call that gun shy. Some people call gun shy the dog that runs away. Like, it just depends. And there's so many different levels of it. But if the dog is manageable to a degree, nervous, maybe doesn't have the confidence, maybe runs back to you if there's a gunshot, I look at it and I go, okay, we got to start all over from square one. And so I would start out like that. I'd walk around and I'd clap. And maybe that's too loud for the dog. So I'd be in a very comfortable scenario where the dog does not, he feels safe, doesn't have any, maybe it's your living room, wherever it is. And maybe it starts out like that. Maybe it's a little bit louder. You got to figure out where is the point that the dog starts to become uncomfortable and why. And then you start figuring out how to incorporate that into stuff. I'm getting the food ready. The dogs usually get pretty excited when I get their food ready. It's feeding time twice a day here. We do it on a routine. We get a lot of value out of that. So I'm going to get the food ready, and I clap all the way there, and it might be this loud. And it's however loud it is that the dog doesn't break down for you. And then I'm feeding the dog. And so the dog starts to understand, well, that isn't that bad. That's leading me to eat. And then I start doing it when we go outside to go to the bathroom, because we're going to go out to the bathroom. So we're going to cut. And the bathroom shouldn't be a bad thing. I'm connecting these things that aren't bad to the idea of a little bit of noise, a little bit of noise, a little bit of noise. Then I might amp it up a little bit louder. And it's just a real touch and feel thing of how can we get the dogs to start settling in with the idea of there's a boom. I do not think you fix gun shyness by taking the dog like that and going to a trap range or going out on Saturday afternoon and having buddies shoot beer cans. It's not going to work. There's something there that's in that dog, and how come? And avoid it. That's the other thing you got to do, is make sure that you don't have any more of that negative stuff. So you can't allow that dog to be exposed to uncontrolled loud noises until you can slowly work them to it. The way I introduce, we have a separate podcast on gunfire. Look that one up. We have YouTube videos on introducing dogs to gunfire. Look that one up. Eventually, I'd get to doing that, and that's just at a distance with really quiet things to start out with. I connect it with my dogs to retrieve because I think it's logical for them to understand that gunfire and retrieve come one and the same. And so my dogs like retrieving, and I make sure that that's a real positive thing. So we slowly link those things together, but I think you're a ways away from that. I don't think you approach a gun-shy dog the way you do a dog that is not gun-shy. And so it's a slow process, Wes. You got 9 months. It's a 9-month-old puppy, so I wouldn't throw in the towel yet. If you said my dog was 9 years old, I'd say I might be waiting for my next dog and making sure I don't make the same mistakes. The question still lies, how did it happen? And I think you got to have an answer to that. So I'm going to send Wesley that answer. Okay, last one here for Instagram. And then I'm going to take a break. Having trouble getting my puppy, 14 weeks old, to bring anything back. Okay to use a little kibble to get her to come back. Working with a balled up sock in the hallway, 13 weeks. She just wants to keep away. Golden Retriever. So I don't like the idea of having to train a dog to retrieve. I think it's counterproductive. I think it's bribery. I think you got a Golden Retriever at 13 weeks old, struggling to make a retrieve. I'd take a break. That would be the first thing I'd do. I'd take a break. Week, 2 weeks, don't make any retrieves. The things that I would ask for questions are, does she like stuff in her mouth? Does she pick stuff up? Does she carry things around? Are there any things that are happening outside of your retrieving sessions that are creating the issues that you're seeing with the retrieving? I love the idea of being in the balled up sock in the hallway. That's how I would do it. But if you've got a house full of stuff that your puppy picks up and runs around with, there's the biggest problem. Fix it first. Pick up all the stuff. Don't let the dog get stuff and run around with it in its mouth. When the dog picks stuff up, get down and make it a retrieve. And then realize, don't do that again. So are there mistakes that are happening that are creating the problems that you're having in training? Those are the first things I'd look at. And then when I start, let's say you fix all that stuff. Let's say there is something there and you go, ooh, light bulb moment. I got to change this, this, and this. After 2 weeks, go back into that hallway and use something else. Try something that the dog, if you said the dog, she just wants to keep away. Well, I'll tell you right now, 13-week-old puppy in a short hallway. When I say hallway, I'm talking, mine is about 12 feet long. And I can sit at the end of it, and I can be to the dog in 4 steps. So that's not very far. If you throw a tennis ball or a puppy bumper, a little puppy dummy, we got that little I love the little fire hose puppy dummies for the puppies. I love them for the big dogs because they're hard to find and they make them use their nose a little bit. But with the puppies, they're easy to handle. So when you throw that thing down and the dog picks it up and turns around and looks at me, and you say wants to keep away, one thing that dogs don't like doing, puppies don't like doing, is sitting still. So I'll wait it out. And if I have to, I'll shrink the distance. I've made retrieves with dogs for the first time. Their very first retrieve is an arm's length away. Because I literally slid down the hallway so far that I'm within an arm's reach of the wall. And I took the puppy and I held it back with my one arm, and I took the dummy and I set it out an arm's length away, and I let the puppy just run and grab it. And the dog picked it up and turned around. And at that point, I'm there, and I literally put my hands underneath it and pet the dog, and I make sure the dog doesn't spit the dummy, and I just pet it. And I go, good girl, good boy, good girl, and I take it away from him. And then I give it back to him, and I share it. And then I spin him back around, and I move him 2 feet, and I set him, and I set the dummy down, and I let him take 2 steps. They quickly leap out, and they grab it. They pick it up, and they turn around, and they look at me. There's nowhere for them to go, and I can reach out and touch them. And then I reach out, and I share the dummy with them. And you know what? That's a retrieve. Because what did they do? They went out, and they got it. They picked it up, and they delivered it to my hand. Now, it's 2 feet. But before I can go 20 feet, and if I'm going 20 feet not getting results, I can just move in. 2 feet with results is better than 20 feet with no results. Because 2 feet with results can turn into 3 feet with results pretty quickly. And 3 feet with results can turn into 4 feet. And 4 feet can turn into 6, and 6 can turn into 12. And within a week or two, maybe my puppy understands the idea of, hell, he's not going to steal it from me. I should bring it back to him. He'll throw it again. And now all of a sudden the puppy runs out, picks it up, and brings it back. All you're doing is unlocking what's already in them. It's just, I'm questioning whether or not there's things that have happened prior to this that are giving the dog the reason to go, I don't think I want to bring it back to him. I don't know, maybe that's not the case. But I see it happen quite often. So simplify it, simplify it, simplify it. So that's Micah. Micah, I'm going to send you a message. Good question. Be patient. At 14 weeks old, the beauty is you've got all the time in the world. I truly appreciate your support with this. I ask you, if you're listening to this on an app or some type of a listening platform that allows for reviews, if you give it a review and even a comment, a review and your feedback, because that really helps us better understand what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well, what we need to improve on. It also, the primary reason I ask you to do it is because it allows for this to be shared to people that are in similar positions and would potentially benefit from it. And our goal with everything we're doing right now is trying to help those interested in training their dog to allow for them to have a better experience with them. So thank you guys. We'll talk to you soon, and we'll keep doing these. Enjoy the next few weeks and months, because the fall goes way too quickly. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.